What's up, military millionaires? I'm your host, David Pere, and I'm here today with my guest, Octavio Mota, who is somebody I met just a week and a half ago at Flip Hacking Live, and we hit it off. He's got a really cool story, and we were like, dude, you should be on the podcast. But ironically, he was already scheduled on the podcast because somebody else, Alex, I believe, had reached out and said, hey, this guy would be awesome on the podcast. And then I agreed, obviously, when I met him in person. So Octavio is prior Air Force enlisted, current Army officer after 13 years of service. And he's got a really unique story and also buys real estate now. And so, yeah, we thought we'd get him on the show to tell his story and just talk real estate and have a good time. So Octavio, thanks for joining me today. Welcome to the Military Millionaire Podcast, where we teach service members, veterans, and their families how to build wealth through personal finance, entrepreneurship, and real estate investing. I'm your host, David Pere, and together with my co-host, Alex Felice, we're here to be your no BS guides along the most important mission you'll ever embark on, your finances.
Vehicle 1, you're clear to depart friendly lines.
Roger, Vic 1, Oscar Mike. Hey guys, before we dig into today's episode, I want to talk to you briefly about the website Carrot or investorcarrot.com, which is a website that generates other websites for you. So you can sign up for this, you generate a website, and they create high SEO quality websites for you. Now, yeah, they charge a little bit of a fee per month, but what they also do is they produce content like blog posts for you and other stuff. They help you with web design, they help you with ranking on SEO, they help put out articles with you, and they help get you to rank in Google. So if you're looking to generate leads where somebody can find you when they type in sell my house fast, Carrot does an incredible job. And I know a lot of wholesalers who do very, very good work, and they all love this website. So I'm not going to do it justice if I try to talk to you about it in super detail. I'm fairly new to it. I love it, but I'm fairly new to it. But if you click the link that'll be in the description, you'll get a link to they've got like a free webinar, free demo, whatever. You can check it out. If you like it, cool. If not, whatever. But this is the sponsor for today's episode is Carrot, which I am a big fan of. And have a great day. We're commencing now.
No, hey, thanks, David. I really appreciate the opportunity. Anything to like really give back to the community and reach out to people that are like-minded, just like us.
Absolutely. So I would just absolutely butcher your story. And I don't want to do that because they think it's pretty cool where you've come from. So could you go ahead and just kind of give a little walkthrough on where you started and where you're at now?
Yeah. So basically, so my name's Octavio Mota. I'm first generation Hispanic from a family of 7. I'm from South Carolina. I've been in the military, like you said, over 13 years, from Air Force enlisted as a logistics airman to now an Army signal officer. And I even actually went to school with the Marines in Quantico for over a year. So that was pretty interesting. I just left 82nd Airborne Division, and now I'm at 2nd SVAB, also known as like the Security Forces Assistance Brigade here on Fort Bragg, North Carolina. But I'm actually looking at getting out relatively soon. Started up an internship program, which is pretty interesting because it's for a commercial company, and I ended up buying them out. So that's also an interesting fact, but luckily it's working out.
That's all right. That's cool. That's cool. How did that come about?
Yeah. So, it's actually something I'll allude to later on in the podcast, but basically, I wanted to get into the commercial side of wholesaling. I felt like there was a niche for, some of the smaller commercial properties, especially some of those new investors or investors who are looking at migrating over from residential to commercial, and specifically on multifamily. And I just developed a team, and one thing led to another, and they created a company, and right before 7-figure flipping conference, I decided to buy out those partners. So bought out the company.
Cool. I like it. That's awesome, dude. All right. So I'm going to ask the question, and I know this is a loaded question because we started to talk about this before we recorded, and I said we should wait. But why are you getting out?
Yeah. So to be honest, I think, without a doubt, the number one reason has to be family. We're at a point in our life where, the work-life balance was definitely getting there. But the responsibility, as you progress, in rank, or go up in your career, of course, there's going to start being more responsibility, and with that, just unfortunately, it just requires a lot more out of you, out of the individual service member, and that fulfillment it just really wasn't there. It had been all the way up until this point. But at some point, we had the serious conversation, me and my wife, like, hey, because she, of course, was a service member as well, veteran, and and was in the military, was in the Army specifically, and yeah, we just came up to the decision. We're at a crossroads again, and of course, we chose family.
Yeah, no, family's huge. I feel you on the fulfillment thing. As I was telling you before, one of the reasons I decided to jump ship was that the Marine Corps just wasn't scratching the adventure itch as much as it used to. So we're not deploying, we're not doing all that fun stuff, and then the ability to be able to take this platform and focus on it and really reach more people. But before we recorded, I told you I'd answer your question about why I went in reserve. So I'm going to do that and give you my 2 cents on it now, rather than this is the first time I think I've ever been smart enough to wait and answer on the recording instead of saying it twice. Nice. So I'm so proud of myself. Alex isn't here to hear how awesome that is. I'm sure he won't listen to this and he'll never know that I'm busting his chops. But anyway, so really, the 2 biggest factors for me were the fact that I could transfer my GI Bill, because I didn't know how to do that earlier, and I messed up when to transfer, because you have to transfer when you have like 4 years left on contract. So you have to transfer at a reenlistment. And I didn't know that, and I missed the window. And so in order for me to transfer the GI Bill, I had to reenlist in some way. So for me, that was the reserve, so that I could transfer to my kids, because I'm not going to use the GI Bill. I have an associate's degree. Really didn't enjoy that. Don't think I'll enjoy more school, and definitely don't want to waste the GI Bill on myself. When I have kids who, may or may not go to school, but at least they'll have the chance. The other big one was TRICARE. It's like $270 a month for the family for TRICARE. And when you look at health insurance outside of the military, it's like $1,200, $1,300, $1,400, $1,500 a month. So it's crazy. And so that was a big bonus. And then for me, the other pieces, the intangible pieces, are that, I've only 7 more years, and in the reserves, that's like 7 months worth of work. So it's not so crazy, because I was at 13 like you. And then also a part of the fact that I kind of cornholed myself into this, where like my entire brand is built around the military, and I am the type of person who doesn't like to feel like I didn't complete something. And so I kind of feel like if I don't at least give the reserves a shot, I'll always kind of be like, oh, I built this brand around the military and then just left. I kind of want to see that through, but that's really the reasons. There's the financial side of the reserves it's not bad. It's cool. You still get the pension. You just don't get it till you're 60. You still get the TRICARE and the GI Bill and the VA stuff, but you still get your VA claim and disability. So it's, I think it's a good fit if you want to be around the military, but not all the time. And the cool thing with the reserves is you can always just leave. So if you like try it and you're like, wow, this sucks, you don't have to fulfill the full 4 years. You can just leave. So
yeah. Oh man, that's perfect. I think, like I said, I think it's making me revisit without a doubt, cause I haven't checked the box yet, right? Whether or not, I'm going to go to the reserves or not. The memorandum is just sitting on my desk. So interestingly enough,
does the Army do IMA?
They do. They call it SFL TAP, Soldier for Life, Transition Assistance Program. Ironically, about a couple hours ago, I was just on the phone call that kind of gives you a resource guide of how they do it. And it's a phenomenal program. They have it in terms of tiers. I would say that tier level is based off risk and just how much, guidance and mentorship you need along the way as you start transitioning out the Army. Phenomenal program. So
IMA, sorry. The transition thing's great. IMA is something the Navy and the Marine Corps do, and I don't know if the Army does, but instead of doing one weekend every month, I just do 1 month a year. So like I'm going to show up in December and drill the whole month of December, and then like I'm done until the next time they need me in a year.
Sorry, I really don't know that answer. I know the Air Force did. I want to say the Air Force would combine all the drills together. Yeah. But of course it was commander dependent and really your AFSC or MOS dependent equivalent, right? I don't know that question honestly about the Army. That's good to know.
Maybe worth looking into. I chose that because I was like, well, shoot, it's 1 month, but then I'm free.
Yeah.
So I don't have
that's
to worry
actually
about
smart.
rescheduling stuff every month.
Yeah.
All right. It's probably enough about the reserves. No one else cares. There's actually a decent amount of information on that in my book. I didn't tell anyone which way they should go, but I wrote out all my thoughts and different options. So
awesome.
Because I was transitioning and going through all those decisions at the time I wrote it. That being said, tell us a little bit about your real estate story. Let's get into the good stuff.
Yeah. So real estate timeline's pretty interesting.
You started off with a silver spoon.
I wish. Yeah. So specifically for real estate, really in 2009, I would have to go that far back. I purchased a mobile home just right outside of Charleston. It cost me about $5,600 kind of fix it up. Obviously not what it would cost today, even for a mobile home. And we loved it. We thought it was great. It was perfect for me and my wife at the time. And really, it just fulfilled our needs. It was where we wanted to be. We're, in the Air Force, luckily down in Joint Base Charleston, known as Charleston Air Force Base at the time in South Carolina. And then all of a sudden we saw another mobile home for sale, in the same area. And, me and my wife, it just dawned on us. I was like, hey, maybe we could repeat this process again. We go in this one and, rent out the other one or sell the other one. And that's what we did. We moved into the other one and, started renting out the first mobile home. Well, then one thing led to another. And I just started doing research on real estate, right? I'm a big researcher, big nerd on just doing research, doing science, doing all that kind of quirky stuff. But yeah, so I started doing the research while going to college, while I was going to University of South Carolina at this time. That's kind of where I reached out to my uncle, really close uncle of mine, who I call him the trailer park king of Greenville, South Carolina. Yeah, man, started off with one trailer, 24 years ago. And now he has 250 something trailers and 2 lots, a whole bunch of houses in the, Clemson Lake area. Yeah. Guy can't even read and write, man. I can't make it up. Can't read and write. He has to voice text me, but he travels the world and he knows how to talk. Yeah. It's insane.
All that matters, right?
I know. Yeah. So he started telling me about tax delinquent auctions. Right. And I got intrigued, and he was really I think he ended the conversation one day in 2 minutes. He was like, oh, if you want anything to know about business, you should look into tax delinquent auctions, when it comes to real estate. And he apparently told me he had an entire lengthy conversation to tell me everything about real estate. But the conversation ended so abruptly that's all I thought I needed. I was like, okay, I guess I just got to look up tax auctions or something. So I go to Richland County in Columbia, start looking up properties, and I found this lovely triplex for $2,600. Unbeknownst to me at the time, 1 month after purchasing it, it was actually scheduled to be demolished. I saw these Paperworks and all over the windows. I was like, yeah, this thing's going to be demolished. I was like, oh God, what did I get myself into, man? So I sold both trailers in Charleston. I put about $40,000 in renovations. It's Class C triplex. Bought this around 2010, and yeah, that thing since 2010 has been renting out about $2,100 a month. Yeah, so yeah, it's insane. Yeah, 1 month from being demolished. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's. But
I would like to piggyback for 1 second and pause.
Yeah, tell me.
And just point out we have bought tax liens, and I haven't gotten through to close on any of them, but I just want to throw it out to people who are thinking oh my goodness, tax liens, they're so cheap. That's the issue with tax liens. You don't necessarily know what so we bought. You met Marty last week, right?
I did.
Okay. Yeah. So Marty and I and one other buddy all bought, we went to 3 different counties. Each of us went to a county. We all bid on stuff, whatever. Marty was bidding on one that we had all looked up, and it was the post office in this county, and the geo whatever was wrong. It was actually the house next door, which is falling over. And so we won the bid. We were like, oh my God, we got the post office for $2,000. Yeah. Now we got this lean-to for $2,000. But overall we bought 3 or 4 properties, and they're all one of them's a duplex. They'll all be fine.
Nice.
But, I just wanted to point out that one of the problems with tax liens is you don't know what you're getting until you get it.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. It was definitely a huge fixer upper, huge project.
But it worked out really well.
Oh, it did.
Awesome.
It did. Yeah. Like I said, part of my, half of a military pension, right off the bat, but So yeah, soon thereafter, I purchased some single family homes really around 2012 to 2015. I kind of wanted to stabilize. There was a lot going on at this point. As I mentioned, I was actually transitioning from Air Force to Army. And so I just kind of stayed on this, the Class A single family homes, steady monthly cash flow type properties, the ones that I know that, hey, while they're paying down my loan, I'm increasing equity at the same time, making monthly cash flow. And then around 2017, while I was in Germany, I bought a quadplex in Colombia, and I just started BRRRRing it. I actually spent, my wife doesn't like that I mentioned this, but I actually spent about 45 days of leave coming down here with the GC and all his crew. And we just made sure, like, in those 45 days, we're going to get that entire quadplex fixed up. Cause obviously I'm doing out of country, not even out of state, out of country real estate investing. Yeah, it was interesting. So so I BRRRRed that first quadplex. And then I noticed that, like, I had these signs out, saying, hey, I'll, kind of, without even knowing about wholesaling or bandit signs. I just had my own sign, like, hey, we'll purchase, properties for cash, or something right on the property. Next thing you know, the owners on the same street, they started contacting me directly and letting me know, like, yeah, hey, they're interested in selling. And then I just kept going, bought a triplex, another quad. And then the last quad, it got to the point where, before I knew it, I had 15 units on the same road. I was thinking about changing the street name, but and it was great. But in 2020, it got extremely hectic. I knew I wanted to come back to the States. I knew I wanted to get on the tactical side. And I knew I wanted 82nd. I wanted to jump out of planes, from pushing pallets on the planes, getting people on the bird to now jumping out of it in the Army, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what happened. 2020 got hectic, and I sold them all, made a 500, I made $500,000 profit on it. Obviously I did a 1031, didn't pay any capital gains tax on that. And then by 2020, honestly, my company, Mota Real Estate, at the time, I didn't own any other real estate companies. I actually had about 40 units, but I started selling a lot. 82nd, high op tempo, very demanding. If you want to be a high performer, you're just, it's nearly impossible. You could have everybody in between you and the properties. Unfortunately, it gets pretty demanding. Yep. But yeah, so now I got 26 units from mobile homes to single family homes and multi.
What'd you do with the 1031?
So I just put it on some more multifamilies. Yeah. Yeah. And then sold that later. And then I just keep doing the same process all over again.
I love it. And I love the fact that, like, on Bigger Pockets, I always ask, like, what's the one thing that separates those who make it from those who don't? And I have been more and more convinced over the years that the answer is people who are a self-starter, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because most people, would not think about taking 45 days of leave to fly from Germany to renovate a house.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, that's not like the ideal story, right? Yeah. I love it. Like, that to me screams about why you've had success with real estate, because you are willing to do those things that most people are not willing to do, right? Everybody wants to be like, oh, wow, look at this cool set Dave did, and look at the real estate he owns. But, like, nobody wants to, like, that's awesome. I've never done that.
It was definitely a lot of work. I can't get those days back of leave, but obviously it was definitely worth it in the long run.
Yeah. I mean, I just sold a bunch of leave when I got out. So whatever. Yeah. I've sold all 60 days I can.
Oh, nice.
So
yeah.
I was like, thanks. But man, that's cool. So, all right. And then you were going to talk, I think, a little bit more about buying out the partnership. Was there a piece in there that we were going to hit on?
Yeah. So we will. Yeah. So really on the partnership on the commercial side, really, I developed the past year. I developed 2 additional companies. I've invested in other small startups. One where, from trucking to drop shipping coffee and stuff. But when it comes to real estate, I started up a wholesaling business, for residential, and then I started one up for on the commercial side. But on the residential, I kept the partners there, and I'll allude to later on and why. But when on the commercial side, I noticed that, everybody was kind of running at a different beat. We didn't have like a single vision. and yeah, just it was almost like perfect timing. I knew I was going down to the conference in Orlando. It was almost like, for me, and I think a lot of people in there, some of the things that were being taught, while it was great resources, it was almost like affirmation. I needed affirmation, and I definitely got that. And it really made me feel good about the decision, because not even a week prior, I was working with my corporate lawyer on like, hey, this is where I think the valuation of the company is. Luckily, it was in its infancy stages, and all the partners agreed. So I set up an internship, a couple of months ago on that commercial wholesaling company, and then who to think that a couple months after, I would be buying out the same company I'm doing an internship for.
Yeah, that's hilarious. And I bet when you approach them, and I don't know, but I would imagine they were actually a lot more open than you think. Like, people are always scared to have those conversations, and I haven't had a ton of experience. I haven't had to do those partnerships. But from what I've seen with people, when you've got like 2 or 3 people doing something and 1 or 2 of them are just, they're not wanting to move as fast, a lot of times they're okay with just, okay, yeah, buy me out.
Yeah, 100%. I honestly, there was not even any fighting back or anything, and not in a negative way. I think like you said, I think they kind of understood their roles or where they were in the company. They kind of also had a lot of self-reflection leading up to that, because I did prompt them of kind of what the discussion or the meeting was going to be about. And I just asked them to do that, just, kind of look inward, how, really self-reflect on kind of where you see the company's going, where you want it to go, and how your personal and, professional as well as your family goals line up with it. And of course, I think the overarching topic was, hey, like, at the end of the day, we need to determine who's going to be the CEO, and where, because that individual is the visionary. That's the person that's going to take us forward. And, and we need to, answer to that beat of the drum, whether it's him or her. But luckily it worked out. So.
Yeah. Okay. And then you mentioned a couple other companies. What else have you, now I'm intrigued. Coffee and all right. What else have we got going on?
Yeah. Here? Oh man, kind of sour about the coffee, but I guess some good news out of it. So we were doing a drop shipping coffee company. One of my partners, he actually was a soldier from an old unit. We did a lot of great random sampling, developed an entire business model. Had an account going through Shopify. Unfortunately, I assumed I was going in with a lot of assumptions that I thought, to be true. Unfortunately, they were not. Things like, hey, do you have your operational agreement with your supply, with your distribution center, or the entire supply chain management, right? Do you have operational agreements? Do you have NCNDAs? Typical stuff that, you have to have great for a business structure. So because by the time he brought me in on board, he was bringing me in as a partner, bringing the business aspect side of things and kind of getting the ball rolling. So yeah, it was great until about 3 months into it. We're averaging about $2,000 a month each partner in cash flow from netting about $2,000 a month on that. Unfortunately, we started identifying. It was actually a customer notified us that hey, they were confused because they went to go look at the coffee shop to see our product, but they saw all these different labels, and one thing led to another, and we realized, basically they essentially went behind us and started selling their own product. This was a small mom and pop shop, 4 employees. We got them built up to 11 employees. And unfortunately, they took advantage of, I would say, the lack of knowledge that my partner had at the beginning. And the fact that, by the time I got in place and wanted to put in some of these systems and some of this legal documentation, it was a little bit too late. They had already kind of identified what they were going to do with the business model. I know that sounds like a bad news story. The good news is, we went into litigation, and they've agreed to settle, even though we were kind of piecemealing them the business model. Their lawyer was asking for, hey, show us proof of this, show us proof of that. Really, we were piecemealing them the business model and how they could do it themselves. But at the same time, hey, we settled. We're going to get our little 6-figure check, and I'm looking at starting that up again soon with potential another partner, as he's now gone on to pursue other endeavors. But yeah, that's just one. We have a trucking company that I've invested with. Flew out to Houston. There was 6 businesses that I wanted to get a part of. And I really got to invest in specifically 3. One of them that's going to be starting up in the new year, which we're happy. It's going to be a small trucking service company.
That's cool, man. Yeah. I love that you're not just in real estate. So I had lunch with a guy today, good friend of mine, real estate agent, and looking at a couple other things, right? Now he has an equity play in his brokerage. He's looking at maybe a mortgage company, maybe a home and auto insurance.
Oh, nice.
And I've talked to several people. So I'm kind of in that mode where like I'm building a brand, I'm building a business, but I'm also kind of like, man, I wouldn't mind some equity plays on some actual businesses. So I think that's cool. We'll have to have another conversation sometime more in detail about how you're doing that. Cause I don't know. It might be really exciting to some of the listeners, and some of them might be like, "What happened to real estate?" So
I know.
I love these conversations. Yeah. So in all of this, you've been buying and selling and real estate, whatever. It sounds like your strategy's been mainly BRRRR. Is that right?
Yeah. So I would say BRRRR when it was just motor real estate, when it was just my company, I was mainly BRRRR, and I did do flips here and there when it was extremely convenient. But yeah, it's been mainly a lot of BRRRR. And again, without even knowing it, and I know we'll talk about it later, but yeah, without even knowing that was going to be, without knowing what the strategy was, I was BRRRR-ing a lot. And then, like I said, on occasion I'll flip. I never actually had wholesale deal until this current year, when I started up the company. So.
Yeah. How's that going?
Oh, great. Yeah. Hopefully, some of my partners, obviously, I have to let them know, hey, we should be able to disclose some stuff, right? Because people want numbers, people want tangible stuff they want, or quantifiable stuff. So I would tell you in the first 4 months, and I think that maybe because, I was able to bring a lot of my business background, the structure, the game plan into place, while like we didn't actually do our first deal until the second month. I would tell you within our first 4 months, or really the last 2, we made 6 figures, within those couple months. So, and then since, over the past year, we've done, cause we literally started in January, but like I said, I think the first deal, that we actually did was like, actually sold was like the end of February, if not beginning of March. But soon thereafter, we were 6 figures in. We were starting our own flip, which we sold, made some really good cash on that. And we just bought a mobile home park about a couple of weeks ago with that residential company. So not bad for a company that hasn't done a complete year yet. So
yeah, I'm in the process of building that up right now myself. So I've been dabbling in some direct mail, doing some deals, but really kind of scaling the direct mail and hiring in 2 cold callers right now. So
perfect.
I'm going to try to go out the off market, but I'm not necessarily a wholesaler. I don't consider myself that. I will wholesale, but I'm trying to buy a whole lot of really good deals for myself.
Yeah.
So
100%. Yeah.
We'll see where that goes, I guess. But yeah. So it's an interesting game. I like it. I don't like wholesaling, but I enjoy the kind of discounts you can find online.
Oh yeah.
Or offline or off market, whatever. Yeah. So, all right. So we've kind of covered a lot here obviously in 12 years, you've had quite a run. I don't know that you knew in 2009 that you were picking the absolute best time you could have gotten into real estate. But what do you think, what would you say are some of the things that most attributed to your success?
Yeah. Honestly, everybody talks about like that I just execute, but I don't think about it. I don't know if it's been if it's been an issue or not thus far, but basically, I'm all about action, right? But I think what attributes is a little bit about my personal background and really like what I've gained through that is really grit. If I were to just summarize it in just one word, it was just grit, just having grit.
Yeah. Being able to suck it up when things go wrong.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. I think grit's a good one. There's actually a book called Grit, but I'll save you all the headache. It just talks about keeping it up when things are hard. It's actually not a bad book, but it has some good advice for how to teach your kids grit, which I, or in the Marine Corps, we call it resiliency. Whatever. Yeah, it used to be caused by hazing, but we don't do that anymore.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
No hazing. Grit's good. So what are you thinking? Like, what's going on for the future? So you're getting out of the military. What's the goal? You're going to focus on real estate side, focus on businesses, focus on just travel. I don't know.
So you're right. A little bit of everything. I think you nailed it. God, man, it's like you probably read my game plan already, but now I'm looking to make sure it's safely stored, that's kind of what it is. Really, I'll be honest with you. A couple of years ago, I was on the same glide path of getting out, and I saw myself doing it. But of course, I was afforded the opportunity of, taking the signal company in a airborne IBCT, right? So, but I would tell you, very similar to what that decision was going to look like then. It would have been what I'm thinking now. Really, if it was my choice, just like my individual choice, not the family, like. Oh man, we would be talking, this podcast would be me and Metzko already, with some margaritas or something, just some kind of good drinks, but, or as like some guy on a cruise ship told me, ice cream, apparently, I guess margaritas are ice cream, he shouldn't have put it on his table, but anyways, so really so we love traveling. I've been over 30 plus countries, whether it was for government or leisure, and we love it. We love the diversity. We love, really getting to know other people's culture and really interacting with people from all over the place, all over the globe. So that's a big thing, for me and my family. So I think once I get out, of course, we'll continue to do, I'll continue to drive both of these real estate companies forward, and then, continue to invest into other small startup companies, and then, just to see how that works. But I don't predict me being in the States too much longer. At least, I hope not. Hope to be in Mexico. Maybe closer to one of the companies that we're looking at starting up in December there, and just kind of viewing that and enjoying the beach. Hopefully somewhere on the East Coast side of Mexico.
I like it. Yeah, I'm trying to do a little bit more traveling. I'm hoping to. We'll see when, but I'm hoping to hit Machu Picchu here sometime in the next year. Nice. And then I'm going to be out not out of the country, but Colorado and Utah a little bit this winter. So, hoping to get a little bit more travel. Shoot, I was in 4 different states over the last month. So
yeah, I know. I was like, I've been watching the Instagram, and I was like, anybody who's seen you, been seeing you. I was like, you sure you haven't traveled? There's a lot of traveling going
Austin, New Orleans, San Diego, Orlando.
I wish.
Hitting all the warm places.
I know. And then
we're going to go to Colorado and ski. So, man, I love it. All right. So I got a couple questions I always ask. One is like if an E1, E2 was to walk up to you asking for advice, like where do you think they should start?
Yeah. So I would start with, just like, having some sense of an ideology of like, what's something that you feel like is going to drive you forward. So what I would start is develop a team, without a doubt, because I kind of like tweak this African proverb that's out there, but I apply it to all of my business. I feel like I almost say it almost like once a month in every business, but I got to tell you, I've yet to see anybody like not pause or constantly, like have that like sense of reflection as soon as I say it. But I say, like, if you want to go fast, you go alone. You want to go far, go as a team. And it's just applied so much in every business that I've done. Because I mean, as I alluded to earlier, I've gone fast, I've gone extremely fast, got up to the 40 units, but I really didn't go far, like I knew, I was climbing, the money was great, but I didn't go far versus like, case in point, in this past year, what I did with just one of the companies, I went a lot further in that 1 year than you could pick any 1 year of my entire real estate business than I ever done by myself. Right. And some of the things that I would tell those young individuals would be like, the example would be like, if you have the knowledge, you may not have the cash. A team may have that, you have the cash, but you may lack the knowledge. A team will have, the knowledge. Right. Or maybe you have both, but when you're working alone, who's really going to be there to kind of like build up your strengths, right? And kind of, build your strengths so that they can help complement your weakness. So that would be like the first tip. I think the second one is like, you couldn't ask for a better country to fail in. I mean, United States just has so much to offer. And, and I know we'll talk about, my personal background soon, but if a guy like me can have all these like series of unfortunate events and kind of fail along the way to having financial freedom, financial dependence from monthly cash flow through real estate, and kind of be classified as a millionaire, through like, then anyone, any of the listeners listening right now, they should really kind of just stop talking about it and just get after it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, you alluded to it already. Let's hear a little bit about that personal story. That's the good stuff.
Yeah, I know.
That's the piece that we almost should have talked about that before, just to set the stage for everything you've done. Right. So anyone who's made it this far, now you're going to be like, oh my God, I'm a piece of shit.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's been rough. So I think, I'll mention in like 3 different categories. So before college, so being Hispanic, first generation born, my dad, typical machismo breadwinner, only person making the money. Unfortunately, I grew up extremely poor, so much so that like, my entire, young life, my adolescent life, I lived in a trailer, it was rough. I mean, I think like significant events would be, such as like, there were several winters where, because we didn't have central AC or money for window units, we were using the stove, open stove, it's dangerous as it sounds. And I know it's cringing, like for a lot of people who would probably work on that side of the house, but, we had to use the stove as a heater, during the winters. There was a lot of times where, we ate tomato sandwiches, not by choice. Right. And it's funny. My soldiers used to, they generalize every officer like, oh, sir, you come from, rich background and, like you got your degree from Westport. So I was like, none of that is true. Like whatsoever. I was like, guys, yeah, I would gladly have eaten MREs, every day of the year over, like tomato sandwiches, with like no mayonnaise, just tomatoes, 2 pieces of bread. And that's it. That's kind of what happened like before high school. It was rough upbringing. We probably, we lived in a family of 7, right? I had, 1 brother and 3 sisters, but we had 2 bedrooms. So, you do the math on where we were all staying and how many bunk beds there were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah. So now I think the other, portion, of like my personal background would kind of be like during college, what a lot of people don't know. In fact, my wife didn't find out till a couple of years ago. Like anybody else who gets in trouble, you have somebody on speaker, and so I got in trouble. I had my cousin on speaker, and he mentioned something like very pertinent about, when we were both going to college, at the University of South Carolina. Basically, so I should probably mention to show I've been together with my wife. She's my high school sweetheart. We've been together for over 14 years. We just hit our 10-year anniversary this summer. But during this time frame, people have to know the GI Bill, it just doesn't pay for family, right? So me and my wife were staying in an apartment together. We were both going to school. So the GI Bill only pays for education. It doesn't really go beyond that. So I needed to learn how to survive. And I mentioned the story about my cousin because she realized through that conversation that I didn't have a meal plan. I actually kind of gave her a white lie and told her that I had a meal plan through student loans or whatever. I didn't even have that opportunity. So I was not on a meal plan through the university. So that said, believe it or not, like for lunch and dinner, because I was, like one summer, I took 7 classes over an entire summer, like 21 college credits. And it was just intense. It was extremely insane. All the security guards knew me. Everybody around like the library knew me because I was practically like pulling all-nighters and stuff. But also because of food. I was actually eating off of people's plates who had meal plans at the university. So if anybody out there on the University from South Carolina, if I owe a bill, you let me know. But I got all the students at USC to thank, because without a doubt, I didn't have money. In fact, I saved that money so there would be enough money for groceries, so I could eat with my wife, or my wife had breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So she went without meals, but unfortunately, while I was going to school, I was eating off of people's plates, bread and everything. And that's why everybody was like, "Oh man, you lost all this weight." It's like, yeah, it was a little bit of gym. It was also a little bit of no money,
Yeah,
So,
like I wasn't eating.
yeah. I mean, I was going to school in a Geo Metro, a 3-cylinder, 1 liter engine car.
I wanted one of those at one point.
Oh man, I spare you. I spare you from having to ever deal with that. Like the floorboard on the passenger side. If I picked up like the mat, you can actually see through the ground, so we could Flintstone it to school if I ever ran out of gas. So.
The car's light enough, you probably could. Yeah,
yeah, it was. Yeah. But yeah, so then immediately after that, right? So what happened after college, and I was going in between. I actually put this on my Instagram. A lot of people didn't believe me. They sent me private messages, especially people in Texas who were like, "We couldn't believe it, man. We remember something was going on. We just didn't know where you were at." Well, now they know. So really, when I was down in Texas and transitioning between Air Force and Army, and I was this is when I was doing some reserve time in the Air Force. So I actually, there was a point in our lives where we literally went homeless for about a month. And I'm talking about, it was already getting bad a little bit prior to that. Aside from not being able to pay rent, but we were running out of like funding for food, because I was doing all these odd jobs, just to kind of figure myself out, really figure out where I wanted to go back. If I really wanted to stay on the civilian life. And at the same time, I was knocking out my master's so I can be a hospital administrator. But yeah, so we were homeless about a month. I remember purchasing, and I'm sure she'll get mad at me later, but I joke, but my wife's okay with basically, I think I told you this story before, but a Caesar's box of pizza, a $5 box of pizza. We actually shared that for about 2 weeks. So we actually like partitioned a Little Caesar's box of pizza, put it in the fridge, like at a friend's house that we were kind of couch surfing, went to like local gyms that we had membership with. And luckily, we were still within that window where, hey, they could collect payment 90 days later. But that's what we were doing. We were like showering at the gym, eating a Little Caesar's box of pizza for like 2 weeks because we had literally like no money. Luckily, I landed a quick management job at Whataburger as a floor manager, and then I picked up a hospital administration job. But while I was doing all that, I felt like I was getting my calling through an ROTC program where I submitted for Army OCS. And yeah, I mean, we know how that story went, but yeah, homeless after college.
Where in this timeline did you buy that first mobile home?
Yeah. So crazy. So like I bought the first mobile home like a little bit during college, and I was doing that, but we had rented that out, but it was just enough money to sustain just the bills. And like everybody else, you're racking up debt, whether it's student loans, whether it's credit cards, or, you name it, so we were getting backed up. So the trailers were just enough. Right. And then, fully admitting during that same time frame, as I mentioned, I sold both of them, put it all into that triplex. That what I never mentioned that a lot of people don't know is that triplex, that 40 grand was like piecemealing money because we were sustaining and trying to stay afloat. It got to the point where we were homeless and people were living in our triplex better than we were. Obviously, they had food, water, shelter, because I had divested all the last money into the triplex. So not something I recommend for any listener at all. But that's kind of what we were doing. We were already 3/4 of the way in. I realized like at this point, we're already over here in Texas. We're already doing our own thing. We already know what's in store for us. We're not going to be able to afford rent. We're not going to be able to have food. We might as well dump the remaining money over there to see if we can finish it out, get some renters, collect some money. And of course, like I mentioned, within a month, we had $2,100 in monthly rent coming to us since 2010.
Yeah, but that just goes to speak again to grit and to being a self-starter, because a lot of people wouldn't have pushed through with that at all.
Yeah.
So, man, that's crazy. Yeah. Like, and to see where you're at now, right? Like, because you're never going to go back, right? So people who've had that taste and had some success are usually pretty good about not spending money they don't need to. So,
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
Whereas me, I spend money and then I'm like, ooh, I should probably be a little bit more frugal. That's awesome, man. I love it. All right. Question for you. Another one of our questions we always ask. What book or resource would you recommend to anybody looking to get started in real estate?
Oh, I wish I could mention two, but basically,
I'll allow it.
I appreciate it.
As long as they're both good. If one of them sucks, I'll take it.
Please let me know. Yeah. So the first one, without a doubt, was the ABCs of real estate investing. The irony is, I never heard of Rich Dad Poor Dad. I was actually doing this. I was already in real estate for like 5 years before somebody was like, "Hey, you should probably read a little bit more." Now, I was quick to judge them, because I'm just like, well, dude, you haven't even purchased your first property, but you're telling me, and I got, all these property. But again, I brought my pride down and I was like, hey, you know what? I see all these people are doing way more than me. How do I evolve? How do I become the lion? How do I become, that millionaire? Like you hear in all these masterminds, right? You got to surround yourself with like-minded individuals or learn from them. So I picked up the book because someone had recommended it. I read it from cover to cover. It was a phenomenal book. And it wasn't until I actually placed it down that I'm like, oh, the publishing company is Rich Dad, like Poor Dad. I was like, I think people have been telling me like that's the Bible of real estate. But I honestly felt like that book was more impactful, especially those who like want to get into understanding property management or having like like those key essential role players or stakeholders to make your business successful, real estate business successful. That's good. Ken McElroy, phenomenal book. Yeah. I think the second one is mentality. In order to like what really changed my mentality was the 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. It's phenomenal. I was too much of the employee mentality, working for the W-2, and I got it. Those who are the military listeners on here, it's okay to like have some, or like it's okay to have your mentality somewhat shape or form like that, because you're in the W-2 job, you're working for the DoD, and I completely understand that. But outside of work, that doesn't mean you can't take risks. That doesn't mean you can't be the employer. So that's kind of what was going on, and I realized I really wanted to change my mentality, and someone recommended the 4-Hour Workweek, and phenomenal book.
That's one of my favorites. Yeah, I think that's one of only a handful of books that I've listened to the audiobook like 3 times.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever read the physical copy of that book, which usually is where I go after I listen to it a few times, just because it's such a long book. Mm-hmm. But it's a good one. Yeah, it really shifted my mindset from like a lot of W-2 or military get to like, hey, how can I do the least in this amount of time and not get fired? Whereas like the 4-Hour Workweek is like, how do I get the most done in this time that I have? Man, that's huge. Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, I guess I'll let you keep them both. All right. So we've covered a lot through this episode, right? Obviously, you did not start with a silver spoon. You really struggled for a little while, and you started out with a mobile home, and then you bootstrapped this triplex, and you grew up to 40 units, and then now 26, and then 2 businesses, and lots of stuff going on, right? But it all came out of what everyone sees is the success, but they don't realize all the struggle back there. So it's just a really good story, right? And super genuine. And we talked for a long time in Florida. I guess, I would like to just end with asking where people can get a hold of you if they'd like to reach out and hear a little bit more about you and your story and get connected.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. So obviously my Instagram handle, it's at Mota Capital. And then capitalvirtue.com is kind of our website for wholesaling. And then my email, just my first name, Octavio at capitalvirtue.com. If they really want to reach out, ask any other questions, especially for like service members, there's not a question too little, too big that, I don't mind, providing some kind of level of support or guidance on, or at least point them in the right direction, I
like it. Did we miss anything? Are we, I feel like we've covered a lot, but I don't know if we're missing something.
Yeah. Honestly, I think the parting advice, like if I were to able to give some kind of parting advice to anybody else. Yeah. So really, it's kind of like my philosophy, or kind of what's works best for me. Cause I know a lot of these people who are listening are probably wondering like, man, why is he venturing out to some of these other businesses, or how's he doing it? Or what's he thinking about? Really, I think basically people need to understand, like, I invest in people, not their ideas. Now, that's not to say there's not a lot of great ideas out there, to include some of the ones I obviously invest in. I just look at the individual first, right? If they're passionate about what they do and kind of what they want in life, whether it's, personally, professionally, and for their family, then I'm all in, right? I'm all in. They're going to get all of me, because that individual is going to have what I kind of see or want, like in their businesses, which is grit, determination, and just kind of overall motivation to succeed. So that's really kind of what I kind of follow, and it's worked for me. Every startup company that I've joined, they've made me some additional residual income that I can appreciate.
I like it. Yeah, I agree. That's it, man. It's a people business. Yeah. People first, sure. Right? Because I've had people ask or say they're gonna, there's like no way to say this without sounding like a prick, but I'm gonna say it. The reason most people don't have a platform like what I've built is because I spent the first year and a half paying to build it. Like, I wasn't getting paid, and I was putting in tons of time, right? And most people aren't willing to put that in. So you find somebody who's willing to build something or put the time in, right? You find the right person, not to say me, but like exactly what you're going for, and they'll be able to make anything work.
Sure. Hands down.
Yeah. That's cool, man. Hey, well, thanks so much for joining us today. This has been an awesome episode. It should be out in like 4 weeks. I think mid-November. Awesome. I want to say, I'm going to mess up a date if I say it. I want to say like the 15th, but I don't know if that's a Saturday. So if it is, then that one. But
yeah, awesome.
I should probably have pulled my calendar out and looked at that.
Yeah.
No, thank you so much for joining us. This has been awesome, and I look forward to running into you again in person.
Oh yeah, no, man, it's been a pleasure. And yeah, thank you again for the opportunity, as well as like joining the mastermind. Phenomenal resource. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was awesome. So again, yeah, thank you again for the opportunity, and look forward to doing business with you too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, brother. Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to another episode about my journey from military to millionaire. If you liked it, be sure to visit FromMilitaryToMillionaire.com/podcast to subscribe to future podcasts. While you're there, we'd love for you to rate the show, give us a review on iTunes. Now get out there and take action.